these discussions because, as you know,
you're
with this,
muted, Nina.
can you hear me?
We can't hear you, Nina.
Can't hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
We can hear
You
you.
guys can hear me? Yeah, I was saying that, as you know, with this COVID-19, food scarcity has been a
I
major
can't
issue
hear anything.
around the globe. Food scarcity has been a major issue. Can you hear me, Lady Tee? Tammy, can you hear me?
Who, me? Tammy?
Okay,
Now I can. Wait a
can
minute.
okay, everybody can hear me. Lady T, you're the only one that can't hear me.
Can't hear.
Oh, your voice is breaking.
It's breaking up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I just wanted to get into food security and agriculture because we're experiencing food insecurity right now. So I'd like for everybody to introduce themselves, and then we're going to get into some discussions about agribusiness and security, food sovereignty. So if you could start, Dr. Corey, with your introduction.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Corey Floyd, and I am the owner and founding member of the
Show me my son,
farm.
screen
We
recording.
grow industrial hemp,
Screen recording.
and I'm also an educator. And um, I decided to get into agriculture in 2011 after the tsunami that they had in Japan. And it really made me think about food shortages and what would we do in the event of a catastrophe, a natural disaster, um, in order to sustain ourselves with food. And so that prompted me to go to Iowa State University and go into the Masters of Science program education in order to learn a little bit more about agriculture. I didn't have a background in agriculture at all. My background was in education, and then my doctorate is in educational administration and leadership. So agriculture was something that was totally new for me. Since graduating, um, I decided to start the family business because I wanted to get my family into agriculture. At that time, I did a little bit of research and I saw how a lot of the black farmers in the United States were being disenfranchised with the various programs that were available, but were available to them. So that was my passion for agriculture. And then I met up with a very lovely, passionate individual by the name of Dr. Tammy Steel and the National Women in Agriculture Association. And so I am very proud to do some work on behalf of that organization and Dr. Steele as well. So that, in a nutshell, that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you, Dr. Floyd. And Sarah, if you can introduce yourself and what country you're in, please.
Okay. Okay, you have unmuted me. Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Olabisi Fagoyimbo, and I am from Nigeria. I'm proudly African. I studied agriculture in school. I majored in animal production and health sciences. And basically, I've had a lot of practical experience in aquaculture and fish farming. And presently, I'm an aquaculture technical manager in Olam Group, meaning I get to work with farmers on the basic level, both the small scale farmer, the medium scale farmer, both the farmers at the rural level and the farmers at the suburban level. And I'm particularly interested in women empowerment as a means of alleviating poverty among the rural and suburban farming population in Nigeria. So so far so good. I've also practiced farming of my own, and I've been able to cover some grounds in educating farmers in my community. I've been facilitating programs with the help of other people, my colleagues, friends in the agribusiness industry, mentors, and a whole bunch of people in the industry. And presently, I also anchor a live program on my Instagram session where I bring people in government, people in agribusiness, people in economics, and every other sector, because I believe that agriculture is a part of everybody, whether we acknowledge it or not, in as much as we consume food and every other thing that is agro allied. I believe that it's a part of everybody. And I also believe that Nigeria and Africa should not be sidelined in agriculture, because we have a lot we have contributed, and we have a lot to still contribute into agriculture. I also believe in collaborations between Nigerians, Africans, and people from other parts of the world. So that's basically it. And by the side, I'm not just a lover of agric alone. I also love doing other things, like I love fashion and related things as well. So I can call myself a versatile person. I like to know a little about so many things, not just being a mastercraft at just one thing. I believe in knowing a little about so many things. So that's basically about me for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Lady Lady T, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Hi.
All righty, Hi, let's hello. kick this off. I'm so excited that we're discussing food security today. Oh my gosh, how apropos in such a time as this. I am Lady Tee Thompson of Agribiz. I have been a women's empowerment and doing business in Africa advocate for almost 30 years. Yes, a whole 30 years. And so I'm excited today to talk about what's very close to all of our hearts right now in this time, and that's food security. I'm also a cashew farmer, amongst other things, and I'll be opening up several different food hubs in some agribiz world cooperatives. So I'm so excited to engage in this conversation with all of you illustrious individuals today.
All right. Awesome. All right. And Dr. Steele, Tammy, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Dr. Tammy Steel, or Tammy Gray Steel. I am the actual founder of National Women in Agriculture, with Dr. Floyd just spoke up earlier. Nationally, we have over 29 chapters and counting, including Hawaii that's coming on board. Our main objective or platform right now is to help save and educate youth, with women being the mentoring piece and educators in different states as well as subchapters. We are now. We also have an initiative pending before Congress, United States Congress, in an effort to have a pilot program to 4-H for underserved youth, or youth that are at risk, if you will. So the organization was founded in 2008. From there, I always say that I'm finishing up my 12 years of slavery and going into a new season at this time. I'm glad to be here with you all. It's nothing but great things I'm sure that can come from this, and we're looking to open up an international women in agriculture piece. Thank you.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Tinuke, if you could introduce yourself and
Okay.
tell everybody what country you're from, where you are right now.
Okay. So glad to be here today. My name is Atinuke, and I love to be called cute farmer. So I'm here from Nigeria. So basically I'm the co-founder of Cattle Foods. So it's a fast-growing food company in Nigeria that is into addressing malnutrition through stable food, using the normal stable food because we believe that agriculture and nutrition has to meet at a point. So there's a linking point between agriculture and nutrition, and we have to bring this together. So basically, we've been into processing cassava, which is one of our staple food in here in Nigeria, into several value-added products, and also we also believe in women empowerment, and we started an initiative called She Agric Initiative. And this initiative is to encourage more young women into agriculture and also to promote what they are doing. And we also help them to seek for financial support from people, especially for females who really want to start their own agribusiness in a small scale. And so we seek support from people to help them grow, and we also put them on the mentors. So that we have, so they undergo internship for 3 months before they start their own agribusiness. So we don't just leave them; we also grow along with them. So basically, that's things I've been doing in Nigeria.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, have you guys been affected by this COVID-19 as agribusiness people? And if so, in what way? What has been the change?
Part of the United States. In Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, we do majority of the urban gardening. And with this being said, we had to close at the early part of March as a result of people having to utilize our services. Being in the heart of Oklahoma City, and our center is an actual community outreach center that also connects farmers to government programs. The USDA is our primary partner, and that is our responsibility as being community people is to connect individuals, especially people of color, to the United States Department of Agriculture programs. With that being said, COVID has actually kept us from having people come inside because there's not enough research or literature for us to take the risk of being able to stay open. We also have an agriculture child care center where some of our parents are frontline workers. And that was also affecting our business with coming in, not sure, if they were bringing in the actual COVID um, disease, if you will, or a virus. I wouldn't say it like that. I wouldn't, but the virus. So we had to close. So we've been closed for almost over 3 months now. And needless to say, that is challenging without having any resources or anything to come in. And it takes that to even be on this phone call or
Wow,
this live show.
wow, amazing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that. Has anybody else been affected with this COVID-19? Have you noticed issues in Africa with aquaculture in Nigeria or cassava production?
Yeah.
So okay.
If I may, I just want to talk about the COVID-19. Before we dive into the COVID-19, we already had over 2 billion people who didn't have regular access to safe and sufficient food, including in North America and Europe, where that amount was 8%, according to United Nations FAO. So since COVID has occurred, I myself go and do entrepreneurial and agriculture training globally around the world. I'm also Fulbright. So, in that, I've not been able to go and kick off several projects in Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa as a result of the COVID-19. But more importantly, when we think about food insecurity, 10% higher quantities of insecurity impact women. So right now, I have been inundated, and when I say I mean really Agribiz has been inundated with requests for seeds and assistance. Every day, I'm getting emails from the quantities of 5 to 15 with people asking for assistance and or seeds. So the food security system has truly been disrupted. So yes, on a level of going to educate and bring about training and bring about knowledge, skill sets, I have severely been impacted. But most importantly, I think the ability to bring full food systems that are seven systems that I'm usually advocating for. One being social justice, the other one being able to go to rural and urban areas and talk about living wages and to support more social movement in agriculture. And then the third is just strengthening government nutritional programs in whatever country that I've been able to go and train and educate. And then the fourth is policies. There's still not enough policies. There's still not enough practices to help to impact the climate change, even with the COVID-19. And then the fifth is just the right nutritionist elements for food in and of itself. There's so many people that's not getting it right now because of this, because of the disruption of food. And then just the sixth element, just in how there needs to be more increase on jobs and more increase on housing for people who are a part of the food workforce. And then lastly, there has never been enough investment in local food, nor has that there been enough investment in farm economics, because most people, they're not, and especially the youth, they're not attracted to agriculture because it's associated with poverty. And we know poverty is the root cause of hunger in every community, and indicators of what marginal income and limited access looks like is impacted by healthcare, we know education, clothing, and shelter. So when you combine all of that and you put this pandemic on top, it has shut down a lot of food systems. So yes, I have severely been impacted, and not just myself, but all of the countries and all of the individuals, the rural women, the women in the bush, the women in the villages that I've not been able to go and mentor and educate.
Mhm. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Okay, okay.
Um, the plant that we use to process our hemp was closed for a while due to the COVID-19. And so a lot of our products we were not able to have manufactured, our hemp creams and things of that nature. Uh, but they're open now, and so we're in the process of getting that ramped up, and then also we're going to start planting our hemp plants probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we're delayed, but we're getting ramped up. So
For Africa Day, it's real interesting. We've been looking at all day with connecting the diaspora with the continent, ways we can work together. We've discussed the divisions and so forth. And so when it comes to agriculture, my theory is like, especially here in America, we have an aversion to growing, to agriculture, because traditionally, historically, we were forced to till the land for free without pay. So now nobody wants to do agriculture. No one wants to grow food anymore. And I see it as a very empowering career to get into, because we all have basic needs, every human being, which is food, water, shelter, and air. And so, the same thing with Africa. I see a correlation that I've been told by my friends that are African, that agriculture was usually used as a punishment tool, that you'd have to do agriculture as a punishment. So they're not into agriculture either. So I just wanted to get everybody's feedback on your thoughts about this.
Well,
Um,
that's as far as our organization, that's one of the main innovative focuses that we do for the next generation. It's up to our generation, I feel, to make sure that we bring the message and we relay the message to the next generation that it is not related to poverty or to a lower way of living. It's actually the higher way of living. It's predicted that farmers will be the next millionaires or trillionaires, if you will, in the next few years. So it's really important to me that our organization and people that are affiliated, that we make sure we make agriculture innovative, attractive as possible, to show them that it's not the typical guy or the gal over there, or the, excuse my Oklahoma accent, but have out there on the tractor and just the tip overalls, that type scene. And that's the reason the Agri Diva part of our organization, we bring out for the next generation to see, you could be glammed, hair done, nails done, cute boots, cute pink, and all this good stuff, and still make major money. In
Mhm.
your own money, you could be great entrepreneurs, and that's basically what we try to push. The actual nutritional part of it that will come later, if not within a few months after they are attracted by the economic stimulus that agriculture can give. And that's primarily that I think that it's so important that our generation relay that to our children, that you need to get into agriculture. You need to make sure that's your career. In some ways, you need to incorporate it some way into your life as being a part of your lifestyle, and to be an income stream. And then the other part, I've been out of the 12 years, but I've been a farm girl all my life. But I just came into the actual business side of it 12 years ago by starting the organization.
What, Sarah or Atanuke, what do you, from your experience, the mentality of people in Africa wanting, whether they have an aversion to the agricultural industry or not?
Yeah, okay. So just to quickly add to what you said, it's really time for us to change the orientation of people when it comes to agriculture, and also to let them know that agriculture is also beyond just going to the farm, just tilling the ground, just plowing and all that. There are other value chain of agriculture that they can also key into. So it's beyond going to the farm and using your tractor, tilling the ground, getting your hand dirty. There are other sectors in agriculture that works hand in hand that people can also key into. And all this sector, like the logistics, the marketing and research, farm record keeping, and all those things are where the people can also key into
Yes.
processing. People can also key into that. So it is beyond just tilling the ground. It is also people keying into the value chain of agriculture. So we also need to let them understand. So it also happens there in Nigeria, it happens in Africa as a whole, that whenever they think about agriculture, all they think about is going to the farm and getting the hand dirty.
Right.
So people need to understand that it is actually beyond that.
Most definitely.
Exactly.
We
Sarah,
want to bring in more like doctors, teachers, nurses, attorneys, CPAs. We are trying to work on a program now that we are going to be introducing these people to the next generation, where their undergrad was in agriculture while they were in college. So they would understand that's your platform. Once you're in agriculture, you could go all different career
Mhm,
paths if you
mhm.
actually get involved at an early age. And that's so important that we get our children equipped as early as grade school. Going into middle school is when we really start focusing in, making sure they understand when they get to high school, ninth through 12th grade, they need to have a good grade point average to get a great scholarship in agriculture and be able to go on and do their grad studies, so forth and so on, and come out making, over $50,000 a year. And that's
Wow.
really what we try to make sure we convey to our children. I say children, that's young adults, I should say, because some of the young people, they get kind of offended when I say children.
Yes. Yeah, if I can add to that, one of the things that I'm so proud about with Agribiz is we go out to communities and we work with youth that's it's irrespective of their age, it's
Yes.
irrespective of their education. And we do that because our programs, particularly Seed Time, Giving and Growing, it has the modalities to help people dig in. And it's done by the teach, try, and share modality. And what we found is oftentimes people who are not necessarily attracted to agriculture, when you get them in a room, whether it's the youth or the young adults or adolescents or
Right.
whatever the appropriate terminology may be,
Right.
when you
Right.
get
That's
them
true.
in a room, and I like to ask this question. I like to say, how many people in the room, how many people are creative? And you'll see like 80% of the hands go up, right? And then I'll ask the same question, but in a different way, and say, how many people in this room are innovators or inventors? And like you'll just see maybe two or three hands go up. But I say it's the same amount of innovation that it takes to be creative, to be inventor, or to be innovative in solving problems related to agribusiness. And so, for instance, I talk about ag tech. We talk about agricultural drones. We talk about
Yes.
PR firms, because you have a lot of these
Yes.
young folks, they know how to use these phones, boom, 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 bam, bam,
Most
boom.
definitely.
And so we talk about, you could do that and apply it to being a PR firm. You can generate
Yes.
conversations, you can generate media, you can generate videos. So there's so many elements or layers to the
Mhm.
various opportunities for people to make money or put money in their pocket, because at the end of the day, most women who are in underdeveloped countries and or children, they want to be able to pay the basic school fees. They want to
Right.
be
Yeah.
able to have food for substantiveness. So when you
Mm-hmm.
take away that the poverty piece in terms of the marginal income and say, listen, you can make some money off of this, but more importantly,
Right.
you can grow some food to have some longevity to your community. That's why I'm so proud of Agribiz in terms of two things. One, bringing real economic development. And the second is bringing community development and adhering to the sustainable development goals while we do that. And I look at, we have two wonderful mentees on the line with Sarah and Anna Tukey. Let me tell you, she is truly the cute farmer. She told me that from day one, who have been in the trenches. I'm so proud of them in terms of what they're doing. We haven't even tapped on value add. How cool is that? Cassava, which grows almost in several different countries, but there's not a lot of import export going on from the continent of Africa. We know Africa is comprised of 54 countries, but cassava is also called yuca or yuca in Latin American countries. And it has so many different names, but so many different countries need it. So when we have atrocities, human nature atrocities from floods and things like that, you have countries that no longer, they lose their crops of cassava. So when we think about food security, we sometimes have to talk about diversification and think about how innovative we can be with the commodities that we work in, or bring value add to a specific commodity.
Yes.
Exactly.
When using the aquaculture industry as a basis to explain what's been happening in the agribusiness industry here in Nigeria, I think despite the fact that COVID-19 came in all of a sudden, we weren't planned for it, and despite the negative things that COVID-19 has brought, there is some streak of hope that things might take a different turn after this COVID, especially in our agribusiness sector. A lot of people, many people are beginning to see opportunities that they didn't see before. And I'll still use the aquaculture industry again as an example. Like most of the farmers I deal with, even myself, we are used to just rearing our fish, knowing fully well that the middleman is going to come pick them up at certain period. So a lot of farmers who had who were already growing the fish to a certain targeted period were caught in the COVID-19, and our that is where we started seeing all the spaces that we had left unfilled. So presently now, a lot of farmers, a lot of aquaculture farmers have fish, but nowhere to push it to because of the lockdown and every other thing. And it's so sad that we have very very little investment in preservation, in processing, in value addition generally, like Tinuke was just saying. So people are beginning to see a lot of opportunities. They are beginning to understand that agriculture or agribusiness is not only about going to the farm. It's not for the poor people. It's not for mentally or financially poor people. It's for people who know their stuff. Because if you don't know your stuff, if you did not study some things probably in school or in some form of academy, you can't just put up structures or put up businesses in processing. Tinuke knows how she has had to get knowledge from places and pull up funds together. So if somebody who doesn't have any formal education or idea wouldn't have been able to pull that easily. So people are beginning to understand that agriculture or aquaculture or agribusiness generally has a whole lot of opportunities that are still very, very untapped. And I think after COVID, even right now, even before the post-COVID era, right now people are beginning to look more into agriculture other than people are even beginning to respect us more than they used to before. They used to see us even when we were in school. You could Tinuke can testify to that way back when we were in school, we were like the runs. I'm using this language from the fish thing. When you hatch fish, there is the last set that is the run. We were like the runs to most people. Like if you didn't get into medicine or law or engineering, like you just someone told me way back in school and said, I just came to school to waste my parents' money. That how would I say studying agriculture in school? Like the first it was the same agriculture we did in high school, like the study of plants, of grain plants and all of that. So people are beginning to see that enlightened people, elites, and people who have qualifications and education can invest in agriculture. And I'm happy because even people in diaspora have started calling me, calling us, and saying, please, I want to invest in agriculture. Could you please put me through? So it's a blessing in disguise, to be honest. A lot of people have lost lives and properties and money. We've lost money as well to COVID-19. It's a pity, but going forward, looking forward, like somebody that I brought to one of my sessions was saying, a professor in aquaculture, he said, because of our children and our children's children, this is an eye opener that things have to be done in a better way,
Mhm.
in a more professional way. So I think to an extent, it's also an eye opener to us, especially in this part of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Now, Dr. Floyd, we, I really commend you because you have taken the lead in starting a family farm. And just what led you into that? Again, like I said, a lot of us have an aversion to agriculture. So what made you do it and start your family
Well, again, what brought me into it was tsunami that happened in Japan in 2011, and I guess a fear of not having any food because you know, as you can see, we're one catastrophe or disaster away from being insecure with food. And so I wanted to make a difference and I wanted to learn as much as I could about it in order for that not to happen. And so I looked at industrial hemp. I looked at the benefits of industrial hemp, and I made the decision. We made the decision as a family to decide to go ahead and do that. I wanted to touch on a couple of things also about agriculture. I think that in order to make the industry more sustainable, we have to really ask ourselves three basic questions when we're teaching the youth, the kids. Number one, what is agriculture? Because
farm?
a lot of them don't know what agriculture is. A lot of them feel that agriculture is going out in the field and toiling and working on a farm. And agriculture is much more than that. So I think that we need to, number one, answer the question for them, what is agriculture? Number two, we need to show them, or the next question would be, how can agriculture benefit me as an individual? And that particular piece is in the form of it could either be a job or recreation or sustainability for a career. And then the third piece in that is how can agriculture benefit society and benefit the world? And there again, you can explain to the youth when you're trying to recruit them in order to get into the agricultural industry, how agriculture can benefit them directly and how it can benefit the world as a whole. So, um, again, I think that we need to, in order to recruit them, we need to let them know what exactly it is that we're doing.
I agree with you 100%, Dr. Floyd. I know that it's proven that when you have the youth grow their own food, that they're more prone to eat it. So if
Right.
you guys want to get your children into eating healthier with fruits and vegetables, start a backyard garden. Start a little garden. Let them grow, get their hands in the soil, and grow their own food. They will start eating it. Make it
Mhm.
fun. It's sexy. Like you see, everybody on this panel is beautiful, beautiful people. So this isn't something like they said that's for the poor or for former slaves or sharecroppers and so forth. Now, agriculture, well, it always has been, but especially now with technology and so forth, is very high advanced. Like Sarah is in aquaculture. That's my interest too, Sarah, in aquaculture. So, what led you into it? I'm just curious.
You said,
In aquaculture,
can you come again?
what led you into aquaculture?
Oh, okay. About 10 years ago, my family started fish farming, to be precise. And because I studied agriculture, animal production precisely, I was able to do some introductory fishery and wildlife in school. But I didn't have so much interest until when it was time for me to get a job in a multinational, which is Olam Group. I was expecting that I would be interviewed for the animal production aspect, which is the poultry aspect. I thought, of course, I'm an expert in, or I studied more of poultry, and I'll be recruited in the poultry department. But I found myself being recruited as an aquaculture technical executive then, and since then it's been an interesting journey because of the knowledge that I had before. I had to start applying it. Then the good thing about it is the job exposes you to like different farmers at different levels. Pan Nigeria, I had worked pan Nigeria, I had worked in almost all the geopolitical zones. I've been able to understand the challenges that each zone or each part of the country has. I've been able to understand the nitty gritty and a lot of the aspects of it. Then it became more interesting. Like, and the very interesting thing about it is that this fish, especially the African catfish, like they are almost like close to like humans. Their sensitivity, everything, the way they react to offensive odor, the way they react to food, the way they react to cold, especially, yeah, to cold season and all of it, the way they grope for oxygen and everything. So it becomes so interesting, especially the hatchery and the breeding aspect. It's like, when we are hatching, it's like we just had the new baby. We By this time we are awake. We are going like every hour to check steps, to check things. We are being so careful. We are being so biosecure. We are like putting a lot of biosecurity, just like when you just brought your new baby from the hospital to the house. So it's been interesting watching life, like being able to bring life out of eggs and knowing that you're like also providing food. And because protein is very important, and because we know that we need to contribute more to the protein that people consume, and the catfish is getting more readily available in the market. So it's been interesting, and that's, of course, the need for survival was first the interest. Like, I just had to get the job, and I needed to be in aqua or nothing else, according to the management. So I had to, and with time, I started loving it, and I'm loving it more each day. Like, I'm beginning to see there's so much versatility and many more options in aquaculture. I'm realizing aquaculture is not just about growing fish or rearing fish in your pond. So basically, it's so interesting. I can't begin to explain everything here. I'll take the whole day. So I'll just stop at this.
Great. Dr. Tammy, tell us why you started the National Women in Agriculture Association and what your mission is with that.
Minority women. I saw the need coming from a family of beef farmers and vegetable farmers. York City, coming back to Oklahoma and seeing so many of people of color with property and no money. And that was puzzling to me because I saw Caucasian farmers that were really being prosperous and active in agriculture, if you will. Therefore, I wanted to do something to bring awareness, number one, that we are human beings of some type of trade and contribution to society. And that's to make sure that they have an opportunity to be healthy as well as to have stability, as a stability income or economic development in communities. That was the primary purpose, is to trying to make sure that we highlight women of color of being someone that contribute and have been contributing to society since we came over here. But now we are educated. We are have voices all over America and as well internationally now. Thank you. And that was basically the primary reason that going forward, now that I see the need and being in it, that the next generation, we have to make sure that they are involved. And that comes down to caring and sharing. That's just basically, that's what it is. And that's what I see more so in our communities, minority communities particularly. I say that because I am a minority and I can't speak for other communities, but I see in the minority community, we don't share, or the older generation is not shifting in a way to give back, or making sure if they're not inside their family, they're really not even, I don't know if they're reaching into their families, but they don't reach outside their family circle. And that's what is actually killing our race. That's one of my primary focuses right now with the organization, is to make sure that women and people that come on board with us, that they have that mindset to share, to make sure they're feeding everyone who comes in contact with us locally grown foods, and giving them opportunity to make an income that's sustainable and to help the United States as well as overseas. That's
That's great. Wonderful, wonderful. Lady T, if you can talk about agrobiz, because I find what you're doing very fascinating, that here you are in America and you've gone over and made a strong presence with the agrobusiness and training African farmers, and you've got a pasture farm over there. I mean, where did that come from? I love this. Love what you're doing.
Well, several factors, and I don't know if you got. I have a little graphic that's white and pink. If you have that, one of the reasons why we got started with agribiz is because at the end of the day, there was a statistic by some economists, some ag economists, that stipulated by 2050 there would be a strong need for food. And
mhm.
I was like, what? 2050? And so in that, they also, I was in a session, I think I was in Washington, D.C., in a session participating, and they talked about how nearly every year 3 million children under the age of 5 years old die from malnutrition. And then when you top that with 10% of women are impacted by food insecurity, I'm like, wait a minute, there has to be a better way. So I first started to realize that there is a misconception out there that industrial and commercial farming, most people believe is who feed us. But guess what? That's incorrect. It's the small scale farmers who feed us. 85% of the world is fed by small scale farmers who have only 2 hectares or less. So when I looked at, wait a minute, we have an urbanization swell that's going up, that has increased, where 75% of the world by 2050 will be living in countries. So when I look at countries like Cote d'Ivoire, or Senegal or South Africa, and even and especially in Nigeria, where I can say 12 years ago what Lagos looked like and what Lagos looks like now, And or if I look at Abuja, what Abuja looked like, I just came back from Abuja the 1st of March, and I was in an area called Wuye that five years ago there was no Wuye. So looking at the urbanization swell and the reduction of small scale farmers and harvesters, and if the world's gonna have 9 million people on the planet, then who's feeding us?
Right.
So I think that right now the COVID-19 has put us in a place of revolutionary planning for how we're going to feed ourselves, let alone everyone else. Because guess what? Everybody still has to eat. So for me, we have been advocating to make sure that we teach agribiz not by telling. We teach agribiz by doing. So that's why the teach, try, and share modality has been working with all of our programs, with all of our communities and co-ops, and we really help scale up because guess what happens? You have a lot of international markets that have commodities or cash crops, and they're ready to go into the international market, but they're not ready. So we go in, we help educate, we help prepare them and show them some of the differences of what it's like to have something local in their particular region to what it may look like in an international market, whether it's going to Europe with to a country like the United Kingdom, or if it's coming to the United States. But I think that I want to highlight something else why I have this moment is that right now, yes, we are in an unparalleled time. And I think that we have given a lot of highlight, and duly so, to unsung heroes that have been healthcare workers. But I have to tell you, for me, when I do my gender positioning of the unsung heroes are truly the farmers and every
Yes, ma'am.
agriculture worker that's been still in the trenches, that has been making sure we
Right.
have our meat, that's been making sure we still have our fresh produce, that's been bringing the
That's
various
right.
commodities that we still eat every day. So for me, I like to salute everybody that's in agriculture, within the food chain, from the logistics to the retail people to the farmer that's going out, that's picking things and not knowing if it's going to be able to be sold versus letting whatever they're harvesting stand and not being picked. So I just want to salute all of the unsung heroes that's been feeding the world right now. But
Right.
I also sent over a video because recently I wrote an article in the African Development Magazine about 7 strategies to really help every country and help our unsung heroes, the farmers. And it basically gives just a real depiction of what we can do on a national level to impact the food supply chain. So I don't know if you have the video or if I could quickly talk about what those 7 things are, Nina.
Uh, if you could give me a few minutes, you could talk about
Okay,
it. With that.
we'll come back to it.
All right, great. So, let's talk about international agriculture because I've noticed, like, I just got a recent notification from the USDA that if you are a farmer here in the US, that there are opportunities to ship to export your products to sub-Saharan Africa. So let's go into that. If anyone can address the opportunities, international opportunities that are available in agriculture.
Just real quick, it's interesting that I saw that has come out. You have countries like Nigeria that also just had some media blast about, look, we're not importing any food from outside of Nigeria. So you
Right.
have some countries that's really open to it and maybe heavily needing various commodities to come in, and there's 20 top cash commodities that the U.S. produces that can go into the international market. But I think that we, as diasporians, and one of the reasons why I became a cashew farmer was to show the Nigerian diasporas that's here in the U.S. and the U.K. I went into Nigeria. I set up a farm. I took the commodity, got it here to the United States, hit all the nutritional facts, did everything I needed to do, and got it to market within 6 months. So it can be done. You can take a commodity, an international commodity, and be on a shelf of a market or grocery store within 6 months. It can be done. And so I'm like, if T from Detroit can do it, I know anyone can do it, because I had the same I had no familiarity with the whole international market. So, though I teach agriculture and entrepreneurship, I try to encourage that anyone could join the international global market with whatever the commodity is. For example, what Tanuki is doing with her diversification of value add with the cassava. She is now making a cassava custard. That cassava custard that she's making through Cato Foods is something that it doesn't have to be limited to Nigeria. It can come into global marketplaces, because guess what? A lot of places like custard, they like flan. And so once she has the various skill sets to know how to translate her brand to that which audience or market, like in the European sector and or the US sector, can purchase it, she will make a lot of money. Her profit margins will increase drastically. So when I think about the opportunities to take farming to various countries, the question is, do you know the terrain? Oftentimes, you have a lot of U.S. Companies and firms and entities that thinks that they're ready to translate into the foreign companies, but guess what? They're not ready, because their branding sometimes is different. The cultural contexts of how to have your branding to translate well in a market, in their market, may differ. For example, I had a U.S. company that they were going to do some baby food. So they did this baby food, and they had a little baby on it, and they wanted to sell this to West African countries. But guess what? The West African countries wouldn't buy the product because the baby was on it. They thought it had human pieces in it.
Yeah.
So, how you brand and how you translate to international markets can actually impact your ability. And then the reverse, you have a lot of, when I go to the various African countries, whether it's Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Benin, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Lesotho, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, whomever, how you translate to the U.S. is different. For example, when you have your nutritional facts that's coming to the U.S., you have to have it both in the U.S. Metric system, and in grams. And if you don't have the nutritional facts, guess what? It's not coming into the U.S. So there's so many different elements about what's needed to do international, to play in an international game, if you will.
Yes, great, awesome. So you want to go? Let's roll this video, Tammy. If you could lead us, Lady T, if you could lead us into it.
Okay, so the video is what 7 national strategies to help support unsung heroes, our farmers, the whole agricultural community.
National
And so
strategy for farming
this is
during
it.
COVID-19. Number 1. Create national movement in agriculture, farms, products, vegetable, meat, butter, milk, etc. with farmer. Number 2. Purchase excess fresh produce and supply to vulnerable persons. Number 3. Connect local farmers to local markets and avoid food loss. Number 4. Match unemployed with farming statewide and national agriculture projects. Number 5. Provide financial programs to smallholder farmers. Number 6. Safeguard access to agriculture inputs and seeds for next season. Number 7. Provide education and training programs to farmers, co-ops and producers. Farmers need support. Like, share, comment.
The reason why it was
Awesome.
important the reason why it's important to talk about these 7 strategies, what that national movements can do, is because if you create national movement, and I talked about it earlier, or social movement, if you will, in agriculture, guess what? It mobilizes farming resources. If a country would purchase all of the excess food produce and supply it to persons, because you have countries that have internally displaced uh, persons or people. So everybody still has to eat. So there are ways that you can still stimulate the economy and be participatory. Also, when you connect local farmers to local markets and avoid food loss, there's no waste of the various food commodities from a national and regional. So you're impacting the local areas, the urban areas, the people in the bush, the people that's in the village. And then if you match unemployed individuals with farming statewide or nationwide agricultural products projects, again, you impact the economy, you change your GDP. Then if you look at, we all have been a participant in some form or fashion of being a benefactor of a financial program. When you give financial programs to smallholder farmers, then what do? You create sustainable development and you bring about capacity building for people who need it the most. And then when you look at the safeguard to access to agricultural inputs and seeds for the next season. Guess what? After COVID-19, people are still going to need to have continuity in farming and in
Mhm.
agriculture. So we have to prevail beyond the pandemic. And then lastly, the best investment is in human capital. You have to provide educational and training programs. When you empower people and when you train them, that is the best and the most important key to human capital. So those 7 strategies are things that could be deployed, even if you didn't do it from a national level, and a community or a women's cooperative got together to figure out how they could take a piece of land and cultivate the land and figure out what they want to do with it in terms of food substitutiveness and or making it profitable. It can be done. I've done it time and time again. I've mentored over tens of thousands of individuals and stimulated entrepreneurship. So I know that we can do this. And I go back to what I said earlier. This COVID-19 is helping us all participate in revolutionary planning in agriculture, because at the end of the day, everyone, I don't care what your color, creed, race is, you have to eat.
You have to
You
exactly.
have to.
Tammy, yeah. What are some of the education programs you're doing? I know you're doing a lot with educating in the agricultural business too.
Well, we have 3 programs. The first one is called Seed Time Giving and Growing, where we bring a business in a box and we help to spark
Now,
innovation in agriculture. Then the second one that we do, then bring a community to the United States. It's called two harvest har, 2 hectare harvesting. Excuse me, where we help to expand what a small scale farmer is doing, and we link them up with experts here in the U.S. to help them expand. But guess what? We're creating a new model post this COVID-19 so that we'll have an online platform for that. And the third is just simple. We have a ag development program. For example, we recently, last year, we went to Ghana and we helped some farmers who were pepper farmers to help increase their irrigation systems. So we came and we solve problems with that program. So those are the 3 programs as it relates to educating and training that we offer.
okay, all right, Dr. Tammy. What are some of the agricultural training programs that you have, Dr. Tammy Steel?
Yes, we have the first one we have is what we're doing here locally, that we actually invite people in from the community, from their direct community, train them on site as well as in the classroom how to produce food. But we are also asking different policy people on the city level to assist us to make sure that our people could sell their produce directly to the grocery store that's coming into their community. I actually, our facility, the headquarters, is in the heart of the food desert in Oklahoma City, of course, in a minority community where there is one grocery store that is, not the best, but we are challenging or asking, I shouldn't say challenging, asking the local officials to help us have the people who grow the food in their community be able to sell directly to the grocery stores that's coming into their communities to actually have an economic type stimulus development there. One of the other programs we have is called Hip Hop Producers. That's for the young men primarily. That's something that we are developing. It's been there on the forefront, but we're bringing it more into tying it in more to the entertainers as well as the basketball players or NBA players, people like that, that could also assist the sports arena. We're working on a program where we are able to help our children stay out of the penitentiaries as well as save their lives by giving them these opportunities to come in our programs, learning how to eat locally grown foods, but at the same time working on athletic um, different trainings with some of the head coaches in the area. And this is a pilot program that we're starting here in Oklahoma City as soon as COVID lifts some more. We're not wanting to get everyone together all together. We're trying to stay as safe as possible. We also have the JADE, the Junior Agri Diva Education Program, which is primarily named after my daughter named Jade. I have one biological daughter. That program looks at young and helps young ladies, mentors them as well, how to produce whatever. When I say production, we go from the cattle, horticulture, pollinators. We try to introduce every aspect of agriculture, aquaculture, wherever it is. And that's the reason we partner with the local colleges when we don't have the expertise on hand. We have people come in, or maybe if it's not even college, but we make sure it's an expert that comes in, teach our children how to get involved, the young ladies. But one of the main things we try to teach them how to have self efficient and self responsibility about what they want to do going forward into their careers. So those are our three primary platforms, other than us getting ready to start doing some online, virtual type trainings, because we're not able to travel into the different states. We have some individual little gardening programs that we're doing for individual people that literally our organization is working on becoming a funder, because that's one of my passions. I hate to see people trying and have money as an issue. If you're trying to help someone grow food and be healthy, why would you stop them from giving resources to do so? And that's one of my passionate um, platforms I'm working on right now with Congress, to make sure that anyone that's willing to help someone grow food and want to feed a community and help them make income to help their families, why shouldn't we be able to help that individual with the resource without having to jump through thousands of unnecessary red tape and hoops? That's what our organization, that's what we're working on right now.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Floyd, now what if for the person who says, I live in an apartment, I don't have land to grow, but I am interested in growing my own food. What advice would you give them?
Well, the advice that I would give them would be to start off small. I mean, you can grow your food in a pot. You can grow it on your deck, on your porch. You don't have to have large varieties of food. Maybe grow something that you like, maybe tomato plants, strawberries, or what have you. But the idea is to grow something, because when you grow your own food, it gives you a sense of empowerment that you haven't experienced before. So I would advise them to grow something.
Same question for you, Tinuke. What advice would you give?
Okay. I will also tell them to grow something. They could start at the back of their houses, just like doctor said. You could plant now in your sitting room. So even if you don't want to use soil, you can go into vertical farming,
Yeah.
soilless farming. So it's not until you have soil to cultivate or you have a land to cultivate. So you can do soilless farming in your house, which won't take you, which it won't take a large space for you to start. You could start small. So for everyone, going into family gardening is actually very important. So if everybody is growing their own vegetables in their houses, it will help to reduce food insecurity and food scarcity. So everybody just needs to go into farming in one way or the other, because At this stage now, everybody wants to eat healthy, everybody wants to eat organic. And the only way this can be guaranteed is by you planting your own food and by you starting small. You don't need that large expanse of land. You can start just the way you are in your house. You can use bags. You can use your flower pots. You can use your flower beds to start growing your vegetable. So please do something.
Sarah, would you give any advice?
Well, Dr. Floyd and Atinuke have said the basic thing, which is you can start small and grow big. And aside having land or not having land, most of the time for people, especially who have not been doing agriculture before, I think it's better to always start small and scale up. So growing food in your backyard, there's this sack farming. The sack farming you can use to grow cucumbers, you can use to grow tomatoes. The sack farming, it takes less space and still helps you to maximize. You can do that. You can go into the soilless farming that Martinuka has said. Yeah, and the hydroponics is part of the soilless farming too. There is a way you can grow stuff with just water, basically water and the medium like a plastic or something. So there are so many ways now. It's just about going on the internet, learning things about learning from people around you. There are many ways now to grow stuff without having large expanse of land, and especially for beginners, it's best to start small, then scale up. That's what I have to say.
When you said, thank you, Sarah, but when you said that about hydroponics, growing stuff in water, there's this a farmer, agriculture uses soil. He's created like a vertical farm system, but with the use of soil. And what he's explained to me is that is the best practice because water, using just water is unnatural. That everything soil. So he thinks that's the most beneficial. So what are your thoughts on